What's up, Zach here, and today I've got the Giannis Zoom Freak 7, and apologies if there's any smoke still left in here. I had to do the fog test a little bit longer than I thought I was going to have to on these shoes. We will get into that in a second, why I had to do that. You know, I haven't gotten through these yet, so I don't know exactly what is going on in the midsole yet, but already these are definitely quite a bit different, at least feeling versus especially the 5s as well as the 6s. So let's get to cutting here. These only have a pretty standard Nike insole. This is nothing super special. Nothing we even got to talk about here. You can see on the overhead, nothing there. But all right, so getting through the tongue, one thing I noticed is there is a seam in between the real padded layer of the tongue on the top, as well as the less padding as you go through kind of the midfoot of the shoe. And right where that seam is, that's where I did have some lace irritation on these. So that will break in over time. You'll start to flatten that out, but that seam definitely was a little bit annoying for me. So I'd say lace irritation is just mild, and it's right there. Everywhere else, I had enough padding in them for sure. This is a true mid, and so for that, heel slippage was really none to speak of. One thing I did notice is on the microscope, you notice it's textile and TPU, and it looks like a very lightweight TPU weave in the you know, kind of going all the way around from the toe box all the way into the midfoot on the medial and lateral side. And that kind of meets up with just some, you know, some stitching, kind of padded stitch material on the sides. This material on the sides right here, this is stiff. It almost feels like a board shank, like on the old Jordan lines. Like it feels like there's like cardboard under this. So maybe some containment, a little, you know, just adding a little bit of stiffness to the shoe. Maybe, but it definitely required a little bit more break-in and just kind of moving the shoe around before it actually felt comfortable. Once I did, it was fine, but at first it did kind of annoy both my malleoli or my ankle bones. The thing I will say though is even though it is lightweight up here in the uppers and the toe box, and so it feels like it should breathe really well, look at this thing on the breathability test, and that is not the case. Fog does not get out of that forefoot whatsoever. I just kept holding it in there thinking it was going to come out, and it's coming out the sides of the tongue, and you do get a gusset in there, and that's nice, but really not a lot of fog egress whatsoever. So these are going to trap some heat and moisture for sure. But the one thing I also noticed is when I was tying these down, it really felt like the laces were struggling in these two more proximal lace eyelets here, and so this could be a point of failure in terms of them coming out, because like I said, I should say the shoe was really struggling when I was pulling them down. No runner's knot. You don't need one because of the high kind of Batman ears, kind of like in some of the LeBrons. But like I said, there is quite a bit of padding going all the way into the forefoot of that shoe. It does feel a little bit more plush in the forefoot, but that is going to come with a little bit more heat and moisture trapping. All right, but getting into the midsole teardown, first of all, my apologies. This is not the Zoom Freak 7. It's just the Freak 7 because there is no zoom in here. I went back, looked at the Nike website. It just says Freak 7, so that is my bad. It is just an entire bed of Cushlon foam. It's 2.5 centimeter heel height and only a 0.7 centimeter drop. You do get a double thickness heel counter here. That is nice. Forgot to mention that in the upper section. And a top-loaded shank, which is something we have not been seeing in the Freak line. So that's fantastic. The Cushlon foam here, the foam durometer on this is only 15.8, so it's pretty soft. And this Cushlon you have on the outside is the same durometer, so there isn't even a stiffer carrier foam in this. This is just all pretty soft Cushlon in here, and honestly, it's great that there's a top-loaded shank on this, because if not, it would have been an absolute floppy mess. These things actually do have quite a bit of torsional stability, torsional rigidity to them, which we've not seen in the Freak line. So that's great. It's just really basic. It's just rubberized EVA the whole way through, Cushlon 3.0 the whole way through. Yes, it is soft and it is comfortable and it has stability to it. So in and of that, that's actually pretty decent engineering if you ask me. It's just, you know, from what we've seen in models previously, it's nowhere near what we've seen before. Look at this thing on the bounce height test. Got 39 centimeters in the rear foot, 42 in the forefoot. So this is some bouncy, elastic Cushlon 3.0 in this thing. So like I said, that's nice. The fact that they were able to put a really elastic, lightweight, bouncy, comfy Cushlon 3.0 in this thing, that the formulation of Cushlon, or Cushlon 3.0 I should say, in this is really nice. And you get the top load shank, double heel counter. And you know, the one thing I also didn't mention, which I probably should have just put in the fit section, but I'll talk about it now, is the rear foot in these things kind of squared off right here, as you can see. And so it's pretty stable, plus you get a little bit more of just a wide outcropping here. Not a crazy lateral flange, but it's pretty wide out there. So the midsole in itself is just incredibly stable. It's a much more stable shoe than we're used to seeing in the last, I would say, 4 models of Zoom Freak. So, or actually the last 3 models of Zoom Freak. So some things to like about the midsole, but if you're kind of in it for the real tech-heavy Zoom Freaks, or the freaks, I should say, quote unquote, because there's no Zoom in it, then you'd probably be disappointed. Oh, but speaking of the torsional stability in the shoe, the tensiometer, right? To get this thing to 45 degrees, it took 63 newtons. And that is one of the stiffest shoes I've ever tested using that tensiometer. So it just shows you a little bit of objectively, you know, the feeling of stiffness in there. There is some actual stiffness in this shoe. So for sure, gonna need a little bit of break-in before it feels flexible. The direct underfoot comfort of the Cushlon 3.0, it's great, but the more dynamic comfort is gonna come from a little bit of break-in. All right, but getting into the outsole tread, I guess you could call this an Antetokounmpo pattern because that's his name on the lateral side. It's broken up with some, you know, kind of just linear lines in there, but remember, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's multi-directional. On the medial side, more of just a squiggle pattern, almost like a, you know, kind of some outbreak patterns here. So interesting pattern for sure. It's full length, so that's nice. On the grip test ramp, slips at 34 degrees, which is just kind of middle of the road on these things. One thing I noticed is it's just a stiffer shoe. So, you know, it's going to take a while if you like to grab traction by kind of bending the shoe and kind of getting real buttery with your movement and things like that, and being able to kind of dig into the ground and flex the rubber. So I would wear them around the house a little bit, break them in. Like I said, it's all good for torsional stability, but it is going to just, like I said, add a little bit more stiffness to the shoe, which might make them feel like they're not as grabby for some people until they break in. I know people were wanting me to do the durability test on these things with the burr, but a lot of other people were not wanting me to hold the burr, and for a while I was like, I'm just gonna get a freestanding belt sander to put it on there so to get more wear. That is still in a box because we're supposed to be moving and I don't feel like taking it all out. And then I realized I could just put my burr right on a clamp on the table and just, you know, hold it at a fixed distance. So maybe I'll just be doing that from now on. So on the outsole durability test on these things, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. Yeah, I mean, definitely over 1 millimeter of damage on these things. The durometer is really nothing to write home about. Rubber durometer is 14.75, so it's soft rubber. These are more indoor shoes for sure. If you can get the, you know, EP version of these overseas, or overseas for me, I'm in the United States, but if you can get the EP version of these, you're going to get more durability. Interestingly enough, I did it on more of the standardized, and I did it just holding it just to see, and it was about exactly the same. So I will keep doing it this way though, and we'll see about maybe doing the belt sander once I'm into the new studio. All right, let's talk some Fit of the Freak 7. Number 1, these things are long. They came in at 29.3 centimeters for my men's size 11. These have some length to them. Number 2, they come in at 9.7 centimeters metatarsal width, 6.6 centimeters of toe box width, and a toe box taper of 42 degrees, and a last shape or in flare of 13 degrees. And so, yeah, I mean, pretty standard for a Nike shoe, to be honest, in terms of in flare and in terms of toe box taper. That toe box width only came in at 6.6 centimeters, so yeah, not super wide up there. Interestingly enough, resting position of E version, 3 degrees, and that only went to 4 degrees with loading. It shows you, like I said, these are stiff shoes. With all that being said, I'd say a narrow, medium, or 2E foot probably should go true to size just because of the length. That might just be a manufacturing thing on mine, that I got a little bit of a wide pair because this is, you know, obviously I tried to get one of the first pairs I could buy. So that might get regulated, but as of right now, if you're a very narrow foot and you want to get a little bit of length reduction on these, you know, maybe you go down a half size. And it's hard to recommend going down a half size on a lot of Nikes because, like I said, they taper pretty hard in the toe box. So I'd say I'd just be going true to size up until a 2E, and a 4E I'd be going up 1 half size. If you've had luck going down half sizes in Nike before and you're very, very narrow, then I think you're okay to do that in these. But I think just to stay safe in the toe box and not having any jamming or cramping and things like that, I'd just be going true to size. You can fit orthotics in these just fine. In terms of the snake bitten foot, lumps, bumps, bruises, who I like these for, once again, not a terrible shoe for ankle sprainers just because they are so stable. The torsional stability in these things is really, really nice. I would say heel pain in these. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes, a freak shoe. I think these are very, very good for heel pain because the double heel counter keeps the heel stable. The shape keeps the micro motion down. The top loaded shank, stress shields. You can feel some legitimate arch support in these things. So flat feet, tendonitis, things like that. This is actually a very good shoe for all that. I know it is simple, and I know that a lot of people miss the double zoom pods, all like the crazy shank setup, you know, the lateral containers on them, and I do too because I like looking at that stuff. You know, this is a shoe review channel. I like looking at that. But I would say from the foot doctor perspective, this does tick quite a few boxes. It would have been cool if they would have ticked those boxes with some interesting tech in there for me to look at, but they tick them nonetheless. And even if you've got like bunion or Taylor's bunion in these things, they're not the most narrow shoes in the midfoot. So I mean, like I said, even though they taper into the forefoot, the midfoot is just fine. So I think like you can break them in, stiffness there, but yeah, I'd say like check minus for a bunion or Taylor's bunion. They wouldn't be the first shoe I would pick, but honestly, for anything lumps, bumps, bruises, Achilles tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, ball of foot pain, they might be a little stiff for you. I think an orthotic will help that, just kind of help the natural like drop. But yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but really not bad at all. Probably one of the more common Nike shoes I would recommend now for definitely the heel pain and arch pain type people. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below, especially like, are you okay with taking out the tech in them for more of the simple effectiveness? I'd love to know kind of what your thoughts are about that, or if you think they should just be trying to do both, which is what I think. And if you do want to see another brand new Nike shoe going to the knife, the Nike Sabrina 3, keep it right on here on the Shoe Garage channel. That video is linked right here. And make sure you subscribe down below. I'll see you in that video.